1981, 1st of August 1981.
Hello and welcome to Garment Makers Question Time and our April 2024 live question and answer session. And I know I always start with the weather, so I'm going to continue because it is a beautiful sunny evening here in Yorkshire, even though it is a little bit cold. And of course David is here pressing all the right buttons, aren't you, David?
I am.
Yeah, and Peter is here working away on the computer, but no doubt he will be with us in a moment to draw out our prize numbers. So let's do as we always do, not breaking with tradition. I'm going to pass you over to David so that he can say hello and welcome you from wherever you are in the world.
Hi everybody, so we've got people online already. Susan Jenkins, you were first on the comments tonight, I think. You're calling in from Derbyshire, and you said that your wine was chilled and ready to be poured at 6:59, so hopefully you've already had your first sip. Elizabeth Humphreys from Poole, Deb Dale from your studio in Rhode Island, Joy King from Gloucestershire, Elizabeth Humphreys says it's raining in Poole, so that's probably coming our way at some point, and Tari from Buckinghamshire, Sheila Kidney from Edinburgh. So we've got lots of people watching and you are all very welcome.
Yeah, it's always really lovely to hear those familiar names, and some of you we can put faces to, which is always very nice. So welcome to you all. So I've got lots of really good questions this evening. We have got 15 questions and they are all very different, and there are new questions and things that we haven't chatted about before, which is fabulous. I can't speak, I need to learn how to speak. I've got to keep going, haven't I, for the next hour. Now then, if it is your first time, we always have a little gift for 2 of our members, and don't need to do anything, you just need to be a member of Garment Makers Question Time. And I was at the Wetherby Quilt Show last Friday, and it used to be the Harrogate Quilt Show, but it's moved to Wetherby Racecourse, and it's a long time since I've been to that show. Of course, nobody's ever been to it in Wetherby, and it was really lovely. I had a really lovely time and discovered new things that I hadn't seen before, and chatted to lots of people. And funnily enough, I had, and this is very unusual, but I had been teaching an in-person class on the Wednesday to a group near York, and when I was queuing for coffee, one of my students from the Wednesday was in the queue on the Friday waiting for coffee at this quilt show, and she was able to show me the quilt top that she and a friend, the lady who was sat next to her, had created. So all day Thursday, I think they'd just been sewing away and they were doing attic windows. So that was really, really lovely. Anyway, what I did pick up was some beautiful ribbon and some labels which are sold, and I'm not quite clear on the story here, but I think that the lady that owns the business designs these is Elmhurst Fabrics, and it's ELMHIRST, so Elmhurst Fabrics, and one is handmade with, or homemade with love. Oh yes, thank you, David. And home is where the heart is, and then bloom where you are planted, and then some gorgeous, gorgeous ribbon to go with, and my postcards as well. So that was really, really nice little gift for 2 lucky people. So Peter, come and say hello and do your usual magic of pulling out 2 numbers. Oh, he's just sorting his hair out.
Yeah.
I've just cleaned his glasses so that he could see. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
To David. Yeah, so David will check those against our membership list, and then at the end of the session we will announce the winners, and that also comes with a little selection of postcards of my work as well. So I hope you're all super excited about that. Okie dokie. So David, shall we begin with the questions?
Some people actually say they're more excited about receiving the postcards than they are about the prize, Philippa. So I think the postcards they are lovely. They're very good, and they're always written by Philippa as well. So they're a lovely thing to have. So the first question tonight is from Diane Piper. And Diane has actually snuck in 2 questions. Diane says, I'm going to make this padded jacket for my 4-year-old, and I think hopefully have I got Yeah, it's a very small image, but you can just about see it there. I'm going to make this padded jacket for sorry, I'm going to switch that off. Padded jacket for my 4-year-old granddaughter using a kit from Cloth Kits. Included in the kit is polyester wadding, which I'm not a fan of and never use in my quilting. However, as I would have never made anything like this before, I'm unsure whether this is in fact the best wadding to use, or would another type of wadding be better, taking into account the amount of wear and washing that this garment will no doubt have.
So do you want me to answer that bit first? Right, okay.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Cloth Kits started originally back in the 60s. I'm not sure it's exactly the same company, but I had 2 little cloth kits dresses that my mum made, and one was a little dress and it was printed like a pinafore, so it like had this t-shirt underneath, and I absolutely loved it. But my mum was a really slow sewer, and I think the other kit probably went straight to my sister, who's 4 years younger than me. But anyway, I absolutely loved it. So it's quite a busy print. It's a little hard to see, but it looks like it's got horses and maybe a donkey and cows and all kinds of animals on it. So it looks like a really fun little thing. I really think I think it's your choice really. The polyester wadding, it will be really light, so it'll make it really easy to wear, and of course, as you say, it'll be really good for washing. What I don't know is kind of where your granddaughter lives, Diane, and whether this is for summer wear or it's a colder climate that she's in. You know, if you're in Australia, it would be coming up for winter wear, wouldn't it? So yeah, if you put something like wool in, then it's not going to wash, is it? The wool's going to shrink. So I maybe would stick with it. When I did the class jacket, I put pre-washed brushed cotton fabric as my middle layer, and so that is a possibility. I really like it. It's not as thick and as fluffy, but I just like the feel of it. So if you're wanting a lighter weight jacket, then you could use that. What I would say is I did pre-wash it, but for something like this Charles jacket, I would probably pre-wash that interlining, that brushed cotton, twice, because it can continue to shrink because it's such a kind of open weave that even after one wash it might not be shrunk enough. So I would wash it twice. So for me, I'd either stick with the polyester that you've got, or if you wanted a slightly lighter weight jacket, then I would put in the brushed cotton. So that's the answer for the first part of the question. And then the second part.
Okay, question 2. The instructions tell me to quilt the main fabric pieces and wadding together, and then sew these together to form the outside of the garment. Then sew the lining fabric pieces together to form the inside, and finally join the inside and outside together with a bias binding strip around the whole edge. Is this the best way of making up the jacket, or would I be better to follow the method as in the jacket class?
It's a tricky question, that, Diane. I mean, a little bit depends on how hard you want to work with it in that sense. If you do it as it is suggested in the pattern and you quilt the interlining, your wadding, whatever it is, to the outer fabric, and then you make the lining and you put the two together, wrong sides together, and then do the bound edges, you are eliminating having to neaten any armhole seams and anything like that. I didn't do it like that. When I made the the jacket for the class, I put the outer fabric, the interlining and the lining fabric together, quilted it and then assembled it, but it meant that I had to bind all of the seams, so the arm seam and the armhole seam. So it's really what you want to do with it in terms of that. I mean, I think that you could go ahead and do it as they have suggested, and then you could add a little bit more quilting stitching through the whole thing, through all 3 layers, just to hold everything together and give it a little bit more substance. And you might, I mean, I don't know the pattern or the fabric, but you might be able to make it reversible by doing it the way that they suggest. So again, I don't think it's too critical. I mean, what I would say to you, yes, I'm sure you can make a really beautiful job of it. It's really going to be lovely, and it may get passed on to a younger child again, but it is something that's going to be worn and washed, and then it's not like an heirloom thing that you're going to keep forever, is it? It's going to serve its purpose and then be kind of superseded by the next thing that you make for your granddaughter when she gets a bit bigger. So either or, I would just think about how much work you want to put into it and whether you want that extra binding. So that's that.
Okay, so thank you for that. So the next question is from Anne Kingdon. Hi, Anne. Anne says that an advert appeared on her Facebook feed for the Lutterlow pattern making system. It's quite expensive, and Anne wonders if Philippa has ever heard of or knows of this system, and is it worth the very high price? I don't have to do many alterations to commercial patterns to get a good fit, but this seems to promise that you can design your own pattern styles very easily as well as getting a good fit. Or is it a case of if it seems too good to be true, it probably is? What are your thoughts, Philippa?
Okay, so I had to do some research on this, Anne, and what this is a system that was developed in the 1930s and apparently has been available for people to purchase since 1935, so pre-Second World War, and it's a book of quarter scale patterns that you enlarge with a special ruler, and the ruler has kind of these holes in it, and you kind of pin the ruler down and then swing out. Now then, so two things happened when I googled it. The first thing was that masses of these came up on eBay at a much reduced price to the price that it's sold for new, which tends to suggest that people are buying it and they're not really using it and selling it on. So you might decide that if you are going to buy it, you would get a much better deal buying a second-hand one from eBay or other similar sites, maybe Etsy, something like that, have it. And then I looked into reviews on it, and the reviews were a bit mixed, but there was one very good review which was kind of at the top of the page that I was looking at, and basically it said that it was time consuming, and that if you enlarge the pattern, if you needed to make pattern alterations, you still had to do that after enlarging them. And what this particular user said, and there were other similar comments as well, was that it was very expensive and that you'd be better spending your money on a good book. I don't know whether that meant a novel. Just sit and read a novel, or no, I'm being flippant, and that you would be better spending your money on a book on cutting patterns. And there was one that was suggested by a chap, but it was in America, and I toyed with the idea of buying it to see what that book was like, but the postage was ridiculous. So I don't know whether you're in the States. For those of you that are in the States, you might find this book that was recommended, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the author, but it was a man. So what I'm going to say is very mixed reviews. On the whole, not so favourable, but if you think it's something that you would like to try, get one second hand rather than buying a new one. I think that's my best advice on that. But having not used it, I can't pass on personal experience.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we'll leave that one there, I think. Okay, so the next question is from Jules Strangwig, is it? My husband likes to, well, she says my hubby likes to turn up the cuffs on his shirts, so I always do a complementary contrast inner cuff, but he likes to turn up his cuffs twice, and Jules can't get her head around how to do it. How would she get this complementary twice so that when he does the double turn up, that it still works?
Oh, they're such hard work husbands, aren't they? They never do what you want them to do sartorially. Isn't that right, Peter? Okay, so I mean, we don't know your husband. We don't know how flamboyant he is in his dressing, and whether, you know, he's not actually that keen on the contrasting colour on the inside of the cuff. Is that why he's turning it up twice? Oh, his sleeve's too long. Is that why he's, you know, turning them up twice? I don't know. No, I'm being cheeky there, but really, I do know myself that when I'm wearing a shirt, that if I just turn the cuff back once, then it doesn't stay, which is why I turn it back twice and it holds much better. So just thinking about this, it depends how kind of smart you want the actual shirt to be, but might it be be, I'm going to make several suggestions. Sometimes you get a cuff that's a double cuff that folds back and then it holds with a cuff link, doesn't it? And then you see the reverse side. And so for dressy occasions, would that double width cuff that folds back and is held in place by a cuff link be an option to get that little bit more flash finish on that? I wonder also, I mean, my grandfather used to wear them, and I used to wear them myself in the 80s as a fashion statement. He used to get those elasticated, do you remember those springy? We've got some in a drawer somewhere. Peter's going to rush and find some. And they would pull the sleeve up and hold it in place, and then you could just turn it back once. But I don't really think that there is any way that you can manage to get that splash of colour, that flash of colour further up the sleeve, unless you split the sleeve and you have a different fabric towards the bottom of the sleeve. There's no other way. If he likes to fold it twice, it is going to see the wrong side of the lower part of the sleeve and not the cuff. So thank you. These things, we have everything in this house, it's frightening. And the fact that he could just put his hand on them straight away. Yeah, actually they make quite good catapults probably. So can I think of anything else to say on that? You can see it, can't you? I don't see any other way, but if any of the viewers who are looking have got an idea on that, please pass that on before the end and we'll do our best to fit that in. So George, you may just have to let him go his own way with his shirt sleeves.
Okay, so
shirt sleeve garters.
Shirt sleeve garters apparently.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Sarah Runnacles, and I see in the comments that Sarah has just arrived. She says hello from North York, it's cold but sunny at last. And Sarah says, Philippa, please show us your new scissors. What can she mean? So as you may or may not know, I have a large number of scissors and shears. I do love them. I've moved several of them. David is looking quite pitiful at the moment. There aren't very many there. Anyway, Peter, my husband, very kindly arranged a special trip to a scissor manufacturer in Sheffield, which is in Yorkshire. And you probably know, even if you're not British, that Sheffield steel was the ultimate, and scissors, knives, all kinds of cutlery was manufactured in Sheffield. There are two scissor manufacturers that I know of still working in Sheffield, and one of them is, oh my goodness,
Ernest Wright.
Thank you, Ernest Wright, thank you. And yeah, I didn't say you were useless. I just said sartorially you could be a bit tricky. Anyway, so and I do have some of their scissors, but an even older company is Ernest Whiteley, and they have been making scissors since 1760 or possibly earlier. And the same family has run that company, and they are now the 11th and 12th generation of scissor makers. And we had a tour of the factory, and the factory, everybody working in the factory was amazing and showed us everything. And there's one or two little videos and some photos on my Instagram page for you to see. So they take the blank scissors, which now unfortunately come from Italy. They're not cast in the UK, but they take all of these blanks of the half scissors, and to harden them, they put them into molten salt, which has to get to a temperature of over 800 degrees. And so it's absolutely incredible. And then they take them out. They're all the handles are kind of hooked on a metal rod, and they plunge them immediately into a big vat of oil, I guess, so that the oil kind of gets into the little tiny gaps, I don't know, and lubricates them. And it immediately bursts into flame, and we had to stand back. We didn't have to wear any safety goggles or boots or hard hats or anything. And then it's plunged into water. Anyway, so we go and we look at all this process, and then I have to go and buy some scissors. And so I bought 3 pairs. I'm going to show you the smallest first. And so I bought 2 pairs of paper scissors, and I did asked the question, should you use a separate pair of scissors for paper to the ones that you use to cut fabric, and they said that it was actually wise, because I am, even though I'm really precise in lots of things, I am a little bit kind of relaxed on that. So I bought an 8-inch pair of paper scissors for cutting curves, because I could try everything out, and I found that they cut round curves really beautifully. And then I bought a 10-inch pair for my pattern cutting, where generally I'm cutting longer, smoother lines. And you can have your name lasered. They showed us the laser. In fact, I didn't put a picture of that on actually. They showed us this big laser machine, and the scissors have to be held in a particular position for the laser to put your name on in the correct place. And so they have this Lego tray with these little blocks of Lego that make the profile that the scissors sit in. So they're using Lego. But the absolutely beautiful, amazing, really, really expensive scissors, also with my name on, are these Exo shears, which are amazingly sharp and absolutely beautiful in your hand, really nicely weighted. And I could have had these in black or gold or a titanium finish, but as the black one was the least expensive and maybe the most kind of grown up, I went for that. So really, really beautiful scissors, and they make endless types of scissors. They make over 200 different types of scissors. They make shears that cut Kevlar, so that is the stuff that bulletproof vests are made of, and apparently those shears only last a few weeks and have to be replaced because the Kevlar is so hard. And then they showed us a most amazing little curved pair of scissors, so big, that are used to cut the circular holes in golf courses so that the ball goes straight down the hole. So a pair of scissors for everything. But I can Sorry?
Cut the grass.
Cut the grass, yeah. Thoroughly recommend having a look at their website, and I can assure you, you will be tempted. So, Sarah, those are the scissors. And I actually know Sarah has some of the big shears as well, but now maybe she's in the market for some paper scissors as well. Okay, to the next question.
Okay, so the next question is from Sue Hotham, and Sue says, I was just wondering if Philippa has any bright ideas for those nice little corners that manufacturers put on the hems of shirts. And we've got a picture that goes with this. Between the side and front seams, often done in contrasting fabric. I can see how they're done, but I can't see how to avoid it all being bulky and clunky. Many thanks, and that's from Sue.
So yes, you could call it a little go day, couldn't you, or a little gusset, and it just helps to support the front and back and a side seam of a shirt or some kind of top. You see it quite often in fishermen's smocks, that kind of thing, and it helps to stop that ripping. And it's done with the traditional seam that is used for shirts, which is the flat fell seam, and we have investigated that in our shirt class. Now the images that Sue has sent us are of, it looks like a denim to me, so it's a fairly robust fabric. It looks like a denim shirt. There's quite a thick fabric, isn't it? I have kind of really thought about it, and I can't really think of any other way of doing it except to say that if you were going to do a contrasting fabric, or even the same color fabric, if you did a lighter weight fabric, so something like a cotton poplin with your denim, the cotton poplin is strong but it's not as bulky. I don't see it so much of a problem when you're actually putting the go day, or if you're calling it a go day, or the little section in there, but when you're turning up the hem, that could be a bit tricky. So my only thought on that was to either bind the hem or put so that it had a contrasting finish, or that you put a binding on and you turned it up again in something like a cotton poplin, and again I think we covered that in either the blouse or the shirt class using different fabric for the hem. So I think really they've kind of got it right. I mean, in industry, that is going through a special folder on the sewing machine, and they're using a chain stitch double seam machine there, and so it will all be set up to kind of feed through really easily, but there isn't really, as far as I can see, apart from those two suggestions, any other way around it. So you just going to have to bite the bullet and go with what is already done there.
Okay, so we've got a couple of comments coming in. Susan Batty says, are the scissors heavy? And Sarah Runickel says she definitely needs some paper scissors. And she says, no, they're not particularly heavy. And I'm still at the looking at them in the box stage, so they're lovely, better than cake. Any comments on that, Philippa?
Well, I mean, they're not light, are they? Because they are, they are steel, they are precision engineering, and they are large. I mean, I like the size of them. I have some others which are just a little bit smaller, and I find them too small. I think it's to do with the weighting and the balance of them as much as anything. And when you are cutting, you are not lifting the shears off the table. You are cutting kind of nice long strokes with the shears on the table. So you're not lifting them. So they may take you a little bit of getting used to, but personally I don't find them heavy. And also, if we're cutting out one garment at a time, aren't we? We're not working in some kind of tailoring job where we're cutting out endless jackets or pairs of trousers or something like that. So personally think they're absolutely fine in that sense.
Okay, so thank you for that. The next question is from Susan Anderson, and there's a picture that goes with this. Actually, it's not a question, it's a response actually. Susan asked a question in the last session, and she says, I know Philippa likes to see the finished product, so here it is. The lessons were invaluable and gave me the confidence to ignore the printed instructions and do what I thought would give the most professional results. So Philippa will give you a big tick in the box for that, I'm sure. So French seams throughout and a double thickness folded ruffle. Using kimono silk thread for the buttonholes is a game changer, she says. And I've put a close up there of the ruffle at the bottom.
So Susan, as David is saying all of that, I am nodding my head in agreement. It is absolutely lovely to see the results that you've made, but particularly, when it is in response to a question that has been asked in a previous session, because we really want to know how you get on. The top looks amazing. It's so professional. It fits you beautifully. It suits you really well. You've judged everything perfectly. The amount of frill in the ruffle. It's a really lovely flattering neckline on you. You've got really pretty buttons there, really nice spacing. I mean, nothing that I can fault on it. So I'm delighted that you had the confidence to just go a little bit kind of off track, as it were, and do what you think, because I do often think that the instructions that you get with patterns aren't always the most kind of logical sequence or the easiest, and so you do need to have the confidence to just do what you think, and when it pays off, that gives you the confidence to increase doing what you think, and you'll just get better and better and enjoy it more and more. So absolutely delightful to see that. I'm so pleased for you.
Okay, good. So the next question is from Sandy Clark from Fresno in California. And Sandy says she is anticipating the release of the Chanel jacket class, which, yes, we're all anticipating the release of that and have been for several tens of months. I have started making a toile using the same pattern as Philippa. I'm looking at organza versus organdie as an interfacing. I was surprised about the different types of organdie, Pima cotton, stiff polyester and even polyester twill. I noticed while examining the organza and organdie I already have that organdie has more body, and I'm wondering if one is better than the other, or would the type of fabric you use influence the choice of interfacing? Looking forward to your thoughts on the subject. And that's from Sandy Clark. Good question, Sandy.
Yes, it is a good question, and I should have got a piece of organdie and organza out, and I have got some in the cupboard, so my error on that. But it is a semi-sheer but stiff fabric that is great for interfacing, and this is how I always remember the difference. So organza sounds a bit more exotic than organdie. Okay, so the one with the Z is silk and the one with the DY is cotton. That is the traditional thing, but as Sandy has found, you can get them in man-made fibers as well. Now I have used, I think, 3 different interfacings in the now finished Chanel jacket, 2 now finished, and I have to just think about this because I did did sort of think about various things. I used cotton lawn in the front facings because I didn't want to stiffen it. The organza or I can't even say it, organza or organdy can be a bit stiff, and if you're using a soft woolen fabric that's not tightly woven, you don't want to stiffen the front with a really crisp interfacing. So I used cotton lawn in the front. I used a fusible to stabilize the area where I was going to cut the buttonholes and also the vents in the sleeve, but in the collar where I wanted a little bit more stiffness, I think used silk and not cotton, and without checking the class I can't actually remember. I am a big fan of the natural fibres, so I would tend to choose silk or cotton over any man-made. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And what I would say is that the natural fibres are stiffer. The polyester ones can be a little bit more kind of flimsy, almost better for kind of garments, like, you know, ballet dresses, sort of that kind of thing. So I would be choosing between either a cotton organdy or a silk organza. Often I cut them on the cross so that they have this stiffness, but they still have a bit of flex to them, but it is only a small amount. So you're really great to kind of think ahead and start to be wondering about what you're doing, but I think you will only need a small amount, and I would, yes, be very much guided by where it's going in the garment and how it is going to affect the fabric that you are putting it with. So again, you don't want to be stiffening certain areas, but you maybe do want to be stiffening others. So Sandy, bear with us. It has gone through its first edit with David. It is now back to me to check it. It will then go back to David, and it will then come back to me. It will then go back to David, and then it will be released. So it's a very
Christmas.
Yeah, no. I'm planning next week. It is a long class. We are not going to fib to you. It is the longest class that we have filmed, bar anything, isn't it?
Double length.
Yeah, it is double the length of any class, but it's incredibly detailed, but with all the right things, and hopefully no waffle, just explaining to you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. A lot of information about cutting to match checks and plaids and really making a good job of that. It's a big section of the class at the beginning, and that is pertinent to so many other things, not just the Chanel jacket, but also making it to the Chanel kind of standard in terms of all the different processes it goes through is extensive, but I have reduced some of them and I'm giving you options. So for example, you don't have to do your buttonholes by hand, you can do them by machine. There's quite a lot of hand sewing, but you can eliminate some of that, so you will have a choice of doing it with many steps or fewer steps, and so I haven't actually seen it in its first edited form yet, but David says it's a good class, and that he thinks that it will be an extremely valuable addition to your Garment Makers Question Time learning. So moving on.
Okay, and while you're waiting, we just popped out a quick class on the pin cushion, the Cathedral Windows pin cushion. Oh, you want me to? So you can see it here. This is a pin cushion. It's a short class. You should have received an email about it in your inboxes, and it's a really fun class. It's a lovely. Somebody has posted on Facebook already. We only released it, I think yesterday, 2 days ago in the evening, and somebody's already made one and posted it, and it looks lovely. So we are trying to give you little snippets of stuff that you can be doing, and that's a hand sewing or a machine sewing project. So it's a nice little project that you can take with you if you're going on a trip. So that's the pincushion thing. So let's move on to the next question.
Just tell them it is an hour and a half.
Oh, that one's an hour and a half. It's 90 minutes as opposed to 9.5 hours, which is what the jacket packed hours, which is what the Chanel jacket is. Okay. The next question is from Helen Geach from Wareham in Dorset. And Helen says she's a large lady who's losing weight fairly rapidly. I really want to go back to making my own clothes, but I'm confused as to which type of mannequin to buy. And if you're watching and you've got some suggestions on a mannequin, then you might be able to post that in the comments. But she says, is there one which is readily adjustable over several sizes? I would really appreciate your comments. And that's Helen from Wareham in Dorset.
So Helen, I don't have an adjustable mannequin. I actually have two mannequins, but they are both solid. They don't change their size. And so it isn't anything that I have kind of personal experience of, but I know that a lot of our members do have adjustable mannequins and work really successfully with them. And looking online, Adjustaform seems to be the one that comes up the most often, and it ranges from about £90 upwards. However, there are many available at a lesser price on second-hand sites such as eBay, and I'm going to suggest that you look there first. In fact, there was one, and it was actually a church charity. It was on eBay and it was £20, but it had sold. I almost felt like buying it for you, £20 before somebody else got it. But they are the kind of thing, aren't they, that people buy and maybe use for a while, or maybe even think they're going to use them and don't, and then end up selling them on. So I would definitely look for one on a second-hand site, and you should manage to get one at less than £90. I mean, £90 isn't a huge amount of money, but if you can get it for £40 or £45, you know, that would be a big difference. And you might find one locally that you can go and pick up so that you don't have to pay for any shipping on that. But I think we will probably get some comments in before the end of the session where people say what they've got and what they like. So yeah, look for second hand. You'll probably get yourself a real bargain.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Gillian Shankland, and Gillian says, well, actually, Gillian commented on the fact that on my email, which I sent out, I put Thursday the 23rd, and obviously it's Thursday the 25th or Tuesday the 23rd. And she said, I suspect you mean Tuesday the 23rd. Well, I didn't actually get the responses until Wednesday the 24th. So I apologise to all of you who tuned in on Tuesday the 23rd and found that we weren't actually broadcasting then. Hopefully you will be able to catch up today. Gillian's question is, I would like to ask Philippa what contributes to a well-cut garment. People comment on a well-cut jacket, trousers or a dress, but is it the style, is it the pattern, is it the material? How is it cut in relation to the fabric grain, or how it's assembled? What is the key to a well-cut garment? What are your thoughts on that, Philippa?
I think that's quite a hard question, actually. I mean, it starts, doesn't it, with good pattern cutting and a pattern that fits the body that it's going to go on. In fact, I've just read a really great book. It's at the side of the bed, Peter. It's the one on the Savile Row. It might not be there, it might be on the floor. Anyway, I picked it up for £1 in a shop, and I absolutely loved it. It's about a guy who, as a 17-year-old many years ago, ended up getting a job as a trainee on Savile Row with the Huntsman tailor, which is supposed to be the best. I wonder if he's going to come back with it. And if you know the Kingsman films with Taron Egerton and Michael Caine and various others, they're supposed to be based on the Huntsman, and it was just talking about the quality of the cutting and the trying on of garments, and that basically they felt there was nothing that they couldn't really make work. So I think, and you know yourself, you know, when you've bought patterns, some patterns just are really well cut and go together really well, and others seem not well cut at all. So it starts with that, but the fabric clearly will make a difference, and so will the fact that it fits the person. And if you have, you know, an inexpensive fabric that just doesn't drape well, it's not going to look very good, regardless of how well the garment has actually made. So it is fitting, it's pattern cutting, it's the fabric, and it is the make, but it's also, is the style appropriate to the person who is wearing it? You know, you can have a beautifully made garment that doesn't actually suit the body type of the person who is wearing it, and so it actually doesn't look great on them. So many things there, and I'm just wondering if I could grab that book, because Peter had it in his hand and then he's disappeared. So because it might be something that you would be interested to actually read. So many aspects to that, and yeah, No, I don't know. Yeah, sorry. I don't think we're going to get... We are going to get the book.
Yeah, I
Thank
just had
you.
to move the 17 pairs of shoes. And
There aren't any shoes there. Right, okay, so it's Richard Anderson, Bespoke, Savile Row, Ripped and Smooth. I found it very fascinating because not only was it kind of the story of his career, it talked about some of the well-known characters on Savile Row, and one of the cutters, that is the people who cut the garment out there, kind of the top tailors, was in the best dressed man's list one year because he was so dapper. And he's the tailor. I mean, in that sense he should be, but apparently he used to change his suits 3 times a day in the working day. But what I found fascinating was they're all chain smoking away in the 70s and the 80s, and he needed to change his suit 3 times a day to hang it up to air outside so that it didn't smell of smoke. But was a fascinating read in my terms. So if you are interested in tailoring, I found that a really fun delve into the subject.
Okay, thank you, Philippa. So, a good question, Gillian. Next question is from Maureen Warden, and there's a picture that goes with this as well, which I'll pop up shortly. And Maureen says, I'm interested in making the Chanel style jacket once your course becomes available. I have done, which is very soon, as we've said. I've done some research into suitable patterns, including those by Claire Schaefer, but can only find the Vogue 8991, which is in any way similar. However, whilst reviewed by many, I can't find it available anywhere. Is this the pattern that Philippa is working with? I'm attaching a photo of the pattern. My concern would be that it would, but it is with the fabric, which we don't have the picture of the fabric. My concern would be it would lack body. Thanks, and that's from Maureen.
Okay, and this is actually the same pattern that Sandy has got. So it is the pattern that we were chatting about, the organdy and organza about. Do you have an image there, David?
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly just pop that up? And I bought this pattern not very long ago. I mean, a couple of years maybe at most. So I am a bit disappointed that it doesn't seem to be available. I'd searched diligently for it. I only found it available second-hand on eBay for a huge cost, and it was mostly shipping from the States, which added about £20 to it. David, I did then have a look at other things, and there are many patterns which are available. And I just want to show you this one because I picked this up about a week or 2 ago in a charity, a thrift shop, and it's a really nice pattern. It's got a 2-piece sleeve. It's got 4 panels in the back. I paid £1 for it, and it's just perfect. I mean, it is the Chanel style jacket. So do look in thrift shops and things. But I did this morning spend a long time looking, and I'm just going to read out a list which you might like to jot down, and then you can have a look and research them online. So
there's some of them I'm putting up.
Oh, thank you. So David's just going to put some of them up as I speak. So Vogue patterns, and these are just possibilities. I haven't tried them, but you should have a look at them. Okay, so this is 1992. Okay, other Vogue patterns are 1717, 2015, 1830, and 7975. So they're all Vogue patterns that are currently available. Buttrick, I just had 2 patterns, and they are 6738 and 6795.
6738.
And 6795, thank you, David.
That's 6795.
And then there is a Burda pattern, which was 6465. Now, I am not saying that you should buy any of those. I'm just saying have a look at them because there are many others. What my suggestion to you is that you do a Google search, and I suggest I started off with Vogue intermediate jacket pattern or Vogue women's intermediate jacket patterns, and then the same with advanced. So think about what you are looking for. You don't really want the most basic pattern. You do want a bit of kind of style to it, and also look on second-hand sites. So again, Etsy and eBay. eBay's been getting a massive plug from me tonight, hasn't it? I've said it for everything. But these jackets have been made for simply decades. So a 1960s pattern is as appropriate as something that is just been created in the last year. I do think that there is a little bit of a dearth of these, and what that is telling us is it's incredibly popular and people are buying them, because some of the ones that I've found were not available in popular sizes, and just very small sizes or very large sizes were still available, which is going to suit some of you but not all of you. So people are buying them, and I don't think that the pattern companies have caught up yet. So what I anticipate is that over the next few months and couple of years, a lot more of this style of pattern will be available, but that should not hold you back. There is plenty out there that you can use. And in the class, the pattern that I have used, it is the same one that David showed you at the beginning. I made it shorter for me, and so the buttons pockets look lower down, but really anything will do. And I chose the most complex one with a collar in order that I could show you the most techniques. Okay, so there are plenty of others that you will be able to find, so don't be discouraged. Just use it as an opportunity to really find something that you really love, rather than just using the same one that I'm using. Okie dokie, David.
Okay, so we'll find somewhere to post that list of potential patterns at some point. I'm not quite sure where we'll put it, but we'll put it somewhere in the class. So the next question is from Regina Hyatt, and Regina says, after watching your day dress video, I was inspired to buy some linen and viscose blend fabric. I absolutely love the feel of it. The directions say dry clean is preferable, but is it safe to wash in delicate cold water? If I do a test swatch, how large do you recommend? So that's a good question.
It is a good question, and it's an interesting mix, linen and viscose, isn't it? If you remember, viscose is made from wood pulp, so it's made from trees, and so it has similar qualities to cotton, but it's not as strong as cotton. So what the linen is doing is it's giving the fabric a bit more strength, and it will be a little bit crisper, whereas the viscose is very soft and fluid. And also the viscose is not as expensive as the linen, so that will help the fabric to be a little bit of a better price point. I mean, they say dry clean is preferable, so they're not telling you not to wash it. And often I think with not just fabric but with garments, they bang on dry clean only because it means that they're not going to get any comeback if you've put it in the washing machine. Just as a general rule, I do think we do tend to overwash things, so that, don't just wear everything once and stick it straight in the washer. But I think if I'd bought it and I kind of thought that it looked fairly fine and fairly stable, I would put it on a cold wool cycle, all of it initially, and then any shrinkage, well, not all, perhaps all the shrinkage, but some shrinkage will have taken place. I wouldn't put it in the dryer. I would line dry it, and when it was still damp, I would iron it, and then I would hang it to air. If you've got a banister or something like that, I would drape it over the banister so it was nicely supported, but it could air properly. I think anything with a man-made content and you're going to make a garment, it's a really good idea to pre-wash it so that you don't make the garment and then find that it shrinks afterwards. So I can't see any reason why it wouldn't withstand a gentle wash, really. As I say, I don't know what the proportions are, linen to viscose, but I would have thought it would be fine, but treat it with care. I mean, yeah, a cold wool wash is the thing to do. Don't overspin it either. Let it be. I tend not to overspin anything really that is delicate. Often when I'm washing a dress or something like that, if I don't, excuse me, overspin it, I can just give it a really good shake, hang it up to dry, and it will hardly need ironing. And overspinning does create more creases that you then have to iron out. And so, yeah. Treat it with caution, have a go. Fingers crossed. Please don't blame me if it goes wrong. But why would it go wrong? Why would it? They're only saying preferable. They're just covering themselves.
Okay. So that's a good question. So the next question is from Sally Gandecha, I'm going to say. And Sally says, I'm making a jacket, Simplicity pattern 4789, and I think I've teed up the, is that the right one? No, that's the wrong one.
Sandy coming later.
Sorry. Oh, I've teed up Sandy, not Sally. That's why on my list. Okay, I'll come back to. I will tee it up in a second. She's making the jacket Simplicity 4789. I've made this before, and it's quite an easy make. But I'm making it for my mum who can't get a jacket to fit her, so I need to alter it. She is small round the bust compared to her hips and waist, which are 2 sizes bigger. Where is the best place to add the extra needed to the pattern to make it blend in nicely? The pattern has 5.5 inches of ease, so how do I take this into consideration when calculating how much to add? Thanks for any help with this, and that's Sally Gandecha.
So Sally, what we don't know is if your mum is a similar size to you, because if you've made this jacket before and your mum is a similar size to you, she can try your jacket on and see how it actually looks on her. That may or may not work for you, but basically what I think you're telling me is that she doesn't need any increase over the shoulders or bust, but she does need additional fabric in the actual body. I would be adding it into both the front and the back, centre back, and a little bit sort of midway between the centre back and the side seam. I'd be adding at the side seam and the same on the front. So if you were to take your pattern and recreate it onto another piece of paper, what you can do is you can slash up the centre back and just don't go all the way through, leave a little bit of connection, a little bit into sort of the shoulder, so slash up so that you're about 1 inch from the neck into the shoulder, and add a little bit there. You're going to swing out so that you're going to be adding not as big sections as this, but little kind of elongated triangles, and then a little bit on the side seam, and do the front to match. Now if she's 2 sizes bigger, you probably need to add a total of about 4 inches, don't you? So if you want to distribute that amount between how many slashes you are doing. But what you also need to be aware of is that if she's got a little bit of a tummy, it might mean that the front ends up being a bit shorter. So as well as this kind of slashing and spreading and adding these little wedges in, you may need to add a little bit on the centre front, which perhaps curves up to not very much at the side seam. If you are adding a little bit on the length at the side seam, that will need to be the same on the back. So my suggestion is that you make a cheap toile and that you try that on her first. Even if she's trying your jacket as well, it might be a really good idea, but that's how I would go about doing that. I don't think it's very difficult. I think you'll find it really easy, and I think it will be successful. The style of the pattern will work really well for you on that. So yeah, just go for it, be brave, you can do it.
Okay, thank you for that, Sally. Hopefully that's helpful. The next question is from Isla Roberts, and Isla says, "Hi David and Philippa. Excuse me. If there's time, it would be useful to have a reminder of the key points around attaching a curved waistband as used in the lovely trouser pattern that Philippa made. I always get confused about when to match the notches and when not, putting the waistband and facing on the correct way up. I've made the trousers, but it does challenge me every time. Anyways, are there any ways in order to make it easy to remember? Thank you." And that's from Isla.
So Isla, yes, a curved waistband rather than a straight single piece waistband. So a curved waistband will be 2 or 3 pieces depending on what you're actually doing. In the case of the trousers, it's a back piece and then 2 side pieces, so 3 pieces altogether. It is a better fit and more flattering for women on the whole, because it sits with the curve of our body rather than kind of standing up a little bit. It tends to be a bit lower as well, which can often be more comfortable as well as flattering. So if you just think about your body and think that your shape on the whole, it is supposed to be an hourglass. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but you are wider generally at the hip. hip, and then as you go up to the waist, the measurement decreases. So all you need to do is look at your pattern, the angle at the side seams, and the smaller measurement is at the top and the larger measurement is at the bottom. And if you just think about that all the time, it's going to be the least measurement at the top to curve around your body. That is easy to remember. And if you didn't do that and you got it wrong, it would then curve up to the point that the waistband stitched on, and then the waistband would flare out as a mirror image, wouldn't it? It wants to be a gentle curve all the way up. So the shortest measurement to the top.
Well, even I understood that one. So hopefully, Isla, that was helpful. So yes, very good. Thank you. The next question is from Rachel Gilbert. And Rachel says, I wanted to practice the techniques in the A-line skirt class, but I only had enough fabric to make a straight skirt. I've moved the zipper to the side seam and it's all going well, except that it's too tight to walk in. Is it possible to add, is that a godate into the centre back, even if there's not a seam there? How would I go about it? I'd appreciate your thoughts. And that's from Rachel Gilbert.
So Rachel, you do know that in the early 20th century, hobble skirts were all the rage, and that if you had a hobble skirt, you didn't have to do any work or anything, you just have to hobble about a bit. So, you know, if that's your plan, you've made the right garment. However, if you want to make a godate, which is a triangular piece of fabric that is stitched into the lower edge of a garment, you first of all need to make an equilateral triangle. That means that two sides are the same length and one side is a different length. That can be of any kind of angle that you wish. So if you had a very wide godate, a very shallow angle at the top, then it would fall into kind of ripply fluted effect, whereas if you have something like this, it's going to flute and ripple less. Think about adding a contrasting fabric, really make a feature of it. You could change the weight of the fabric in your godate, you know, you could play with it. So let's pretend this is my godate, and I have got a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and there is a dot at the top, which is where the stitching will stop on both sides of the godate. It's not very easy to see because I've done a really little dot because I wasn't really thinking about it. Okay, just pretend that this is the slash in the back of the skirt. So here I have a slash, which is plenty of movement to be able to walk around. So my fabric and my godate, I am going to put them right sides together on one side of the godate. So I'm just going to pick that up and show you. So it's right sides together. Okay, can you see that, David?
The pink's quite close to the white, but I think
okay, I did look for a different colour piece of paper and didn't come up with a great contrast, did I? Okay, now what you're going to do is you are going to pin them together at the bottom with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and just stick a pin in there. But if you continue, so if I turn it over, if I sew those together and I had a 5/8 of a seam allowance all the way up and did the same on the other side, I'm going to have the most ugly, bulky wad of fabric in the middle, aren't I? So what you need to do is you need to swing the godate so that it extends. I move that one out of the way. It extends 5/8 of an inch up. But I don't know if you can see that the outer fabric, the skirt, the seam allowance gets narrower and narrower and narrower as it goes to the top. Yeah, so that you start with 5/8 at the bottom. I haven't got enough hands here. You start with 5/8 at the bottom, but as you are sewing up, the 5/8 of the seam allowance is maintained on the godate, but it gets narrower and narrower to the top of this slit. And when you get to the top of this slit, it's just catching the edge of the fabric. Does that make sense to you, David? Okay.
Hopefully people can see it because the pink is quite close to the white.
I'm sorry, yeah, I should have got a blue or a red or something like that. And so then you've got one side done, and then you would turn it all and start working. That would be fixed, and you would do exactly the same on the other side. So it would be 5/8 of an inch at the bottom, but at the top you would have the actual garment seam allowance going skinnier and skinnier and skinnier until it got to almost virtually nothing at the top, and then you would have your go day in place. Now that is quite a vulnerable area, so before you cut up the actual garment to sew your go day in, it's a very good idea to fuse a little bit of fusible interfacing on there, and if you tear the edge of it rather than cut it and fuse it on, you don't need a big piece. You're not going to get a hard edge and it's not going to be very noticeable. But what I also like to do on these, and you can do it all the way or you can just do it at the top, is press the seam allowance out towards the side seam, so not into the go day, and then top stitch really close to the edge, and you can do the whole thing or just a little section at the top, and that will really help to secure it. So I'm sorry I didn't choose a better colour paper for that, but that is how you would go about popping your go day in. So we want to see you wearing your super fitted but walkable skirt. You know, you can't now give us the kind of, you know, the idea that yes, this is going on, we need to see it. Okay, I want to know you've had success with it.
Okay, so we look forward to seeing the pictures of that. Thank you for that, Rachel. Okay, so we've got one more question, and then we've got the winners of this month's prize. So this is from Sandy Went. Hi, Sandy. And there is a picture that goes with this, and we can see Sandy there. I'm working on alterations for this dress. I'm pretty sure I got them okay. Thanks, Philippa. The question is, the pattern instructions call for assembly of the zip in the back. Is there any reason I can't do the back zipper on the flat and then the side seams? I realise I will have to sew the bodice to the skirt back. It seems like it would be much easier to do on the flat. And she says also I need a bit more room in the hip area. So Philippa, comments on that?
Yeah, so it's looking really lovely, Sandy. Always nice to see you, and she looks happy, doesn't she, looking into her phone there. She looks like she's pleased with what she's seeing, which is really nice. So very nice pattern, and look like you're doing a good job, fitting really nicely over the bust there, Sandy, looking really good. And my suggestion for your hip, which I know is not what you asked me about, but I would just try releasing those front darts on your toile and just see what a difference that makes, because that might be all that you need to do. Presumably there are some darts in the back as well, so release the front ones first, try it on, see what you think, and it might be that you release the back dart. But anyway, back to Sandy's question. The pattern is suggesting that she sews up the side seam before putting the zip in, which makes the job much harder than if you are going to sew the zip in on the flat, so just on the back. So absolutely, Sandy, that's what I said about patterns not always the easiest construction. I would join the bodice back to the bodice, so I would join the bodice back to the back skirt and then put the zipper in before proceeding with joining the shoulders and the side seam. So that is exactly what I would do. So yeah, right question, right thought, and you kind of answered it for yourself really anyway, hadn't you? So again, I mean, Sandy is a prolific sewer, so I'm pretty sure that we will get to see the finished dress, and I'm sure it's going to look absolutely lovely. So yeah, well done, Sandy. Thank you. So Peter, are you going to come and read out who our lucky winners? I haven't looked, I've just got the paper, I have not looked. And thank you for all your kind assistance today, Peter.
All right,
we would be lost without you.
Right, lucky winners, Heather Rastrick. It's the thingy Rastrick band, isn't it? Oh, right.
What's it called?
Yeah. No.
It's a Yorkshire town, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Near Bradford.
Yes.
And Gillian
Monk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Gillian and Heather. Well, Gillian and Heather, well done to both of you. So we will be sending you your postcards, and then there's that little bit of ribbon that you're not really interested in. No, those lovely labels. It's really beautiful. You know that when we were buying these, they were selling out so quickly that we had to jump and get them before it was all gone. So David will be in touch, and then he'll ask you to let us know your postal address, and then we'll get those sent off to you. So what are you going to do this evening? Well, if you haven't finished your glass of wine and aren't going to get another one, you can have a look at Whiteley Scissors online and feel very tempted. You've got that lovely pin cushion clasp should you want to purchase that, which is a really nice little project. You can start looking at patterns for your Chanel jacket. What else can they be doing for homework, David? David suddenly looks a bit tired. It's like this sort of draining of like, oh, phew, that all went really well, and I remembered to do everything that I needed to. I can relax now. So for those of you that are our members with the Quilters Question Time, we will be back on Tuesday. And that little bit of confusion earlier on, it's always a Thursday for garments, it's always a Tuesday for quilters. So if we do kind of muddle up and you think that it's garments on a Tuesday, it's never on a Tuesday, it is always a Thursday. As always, we love spending this time with you and seeing all the things that you've been doing and listening to all your comments and seeing your makes. So it's a great pleasure for us to get in touch with you in this way. So we will be back with you at the end of May, and we will be back with that Chanel class just as soon as we can. So from Peter,
bye-bye.
And from David,
Somebody's just bought some scissors already for the club.
you're kidding. What did they buy?
I don't know.
Wow, well, congratulations on those scissors. They are really lovely, and how fantastic to support a company that has been making a wonderful product for so many years. So thanks again for joining us. Yeah, we'll see you at the end of May. Bye bye everybody, take care.